cars doing some pre-race preparations once the officials gave them the go-ahead, but the car covers have gone back on the race cars. But as you can see, Blake, many fans have come back to Hickory Motor Speedway on this Sunday afternoon, not originally part of the plan, and they're not going anywhere because we expect to see some racing in a short bit of time from now.
Exactly the case, and so many of those fans, again, they waited it out until the wee hours late last night to try and get this one in. They were ready for it. We had a capacity crowd here last night. It's glad to see so many that have returned here for this afternoon to see the conclusion of this 100-lap event and 125 laps for the late model stock cars. But here is what happened yesterday. Again, we were set to go at about 1:30. We completed 44 laps in a pro late model race, Eric, that had some twists and turns to it. First off, Kaden Honeycutt very early on able to jump out to a lead over Spencer Davis. But then with the potential of weather moving in and what could have completed the race, we saw a little bit of carnage and aggressiveness towards the end.
Multi-car crash off of turn number 2 claimed the likes of Brandon Lopez, our caraway winner, Isaac Kitzmiller, who had to start in the back after running the ARCA race on qualifying night Friday out in Iowa. But Kaden Honeycutt was money on the restarts right as we started to hear reports of weather being in the area, and he was able to get the best of Spencer Davis, who shot it off to the inside just as the rain hit in turns 3 and 4. Casey Roderick and Mason Diaz made contact. Diaz went around, and on lap 44, the field was brought down to the pit lane. Several hours of effort were put into trying to dry the racetrack and see if the weather pattern was going to shift, but unfortunately that was not the case. So Honeycutt is still the leader of this race with 56 laps to go, and we are still officially about 7 laps shy of what would be the official point of the race should we find ourselves in that type of circumstance later on this afternoon. We mentioned we're not alone with you here for this return to action on Sunday. We've also got James Pike down in the pit area. We'll catch up with him shortly. But Blake, the race teams, again, we talk about the trials and tribulations of how this race has been unfolding. The rain delay before qualifying, the rain hitting yesterday. Now, of course, we see some moisture back in the air here at Hickory. This has got to be such trying times for these drivers and teams with so much on the line.
Well, again, it was a totally different day for these teams yesterday. They didn't have practice and qualifying like we would typically have on a race day, especially for these late model stock car teams. Again, the pros, they got to get some of the cobwebs off. They were able to go racing here for at least 44 laps last night, but the late model stock car teams, they've been waiting for their turn for quite a while. Again, qualifying was pushed back because of rain and moisture on Friday. They were able to get that session in, which what a dazzling spectacle that was to see these cars, both the pros and the late model stock cars on Friday night, qualifying under the lights here at Hickory Motor Speedway, something we don't often get tuned into, but was a really exciting qualifying session. We did have the last chance qualifier yesterday that was able to run as well for the late model stocks, set those final 2 spots. We locked in 24 on qualifying on Friday night. We had 4 owners points provisionals that were given out, and surprisingly so, Eric, to 4 drivers who currently sit in the top 10 in the standings were those that looked at those owners points provisionals. And then we set the final 2 spots in the field yesterday with Graham Haller, Connor Jones taking those final 2 positions, and that's what set us up for 125 laps a little bit later.
This is the 22nd time that the Cars Tour has come to the Hickory Motor Speedway. 9th time it's been an iteration of a throwback event. First time to this magnitude with the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing. $30,000 remain on the line for the pro late model competitors and $50,000 for the late model stock car drivers once they are able to hit the track. And you see the hardworking track crew here at Hickory Motor Speedway. In fact, I say hats go off to just about everybody at this speedway for all the work they've been doing over the course of the last few days. Well, as we start to work our way towards break, this is a very special event for many different reasons, and we've got some video evidence to prove that to you. This brings out a lot of personalities, a lot of people, and a lot of meaning to this facility. Tucked away in Shelby, North Carolina is the Combs Family Museum. It's a personal collection of all things motorsports, but owner and historian and fellow announcer Phil Combs has a separate room that he calls the Hickory Room. That's a treasure trove of Hickory Motor Speedway history from Ned Setzer, Butch Lindley, Bobby Isaac, Jack Ingram, and the list goes on and on. Combs is the keeper of so much of Hickory's grand history. Welcome back to the Hickory Motor Speedway, the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing. And we're about a couple of minutes away from what was scheduled to be the resumption of the Pro Late Model portion of this two-race program, with 44 laps being completed yesterday, just before Mother Nature intervened, with the late model stock car competitors waiting in the wings. But as you can see, the abundance of fans who have come back to Hickory here on this Sunday afternoon, they're not going anywhere. They brought ponchos and umbrellas just in case, even though, as we said, the morning weather forecast called for a single-digit chance of rain as far as percentage. Well, it's arrived, and the track crew is back hard at work. And Blake, I want to say once more, I have been blown away by the preparation of everyone here at the Speedway, the Cars Tour as well, to handle what I believe is one of the biggest crowds that I've ever seen at this racetrack. And I've been coming here for quite some time. I mean, everything from parking to concessions. I mean, it is remarkable what everyone was prepared for, let alone to have to hit the refresh button to come back and do it again on Sunday and handle all of the teams and crew members that have come back here today as well.
Yeah, it's made for an awesome experience for these fans. I know even walking in yesterday, it had a tailgate kind of college football-esque type of feel to it. As you were walking in, people were outside playing cornhole. They were throwing some meat on the grill. It was a really good time. Everybody was involved in it. And it's great to see that, yes, we had a couple of fans that even we talked to as we were walking out yesterday that were just so upset that they wouldn't be able to come back, but so many still have made the trek back out here again, something that wasn't originally on the schedule. So hats off to all of these fans, and again, they're prepared to sit this one out. And again, I think you can kind of see it's not heavy rain. These fans still sitting out here. They brought their ponchos and umbrellas out. But it's something that's just light enough, and it's been lingering around. Again, it's pretty much what we dealt with for a majority of the day yesterday, just a little bit of a lingering mist that's just enough to dampen the racetrack, not enough for us to lose the racetrack. And with all the drying efforts we've seen, whether it was yesterday or even a couple of weeks ago when we were here for the Pro Late Model race, we had some very, very heavy rain come in, and about an hour later, once it passed, we were ready to go racing. So once it stops, it's not going to take us very long to dry this racetrack. So just hoping that whatever this lingering mist and what's kind of been developing in the foothills of this state over the last couple of days can just slowly pass us by, and then very quickly I think we'll be in a position where we can go racing.
Well, fortunately for us, James Pike is down, boots on the ground, trying to weave his way through some of the covered areas in the pit lane, where not only he, but some drivers are seeking shelter. Let's talk to one of our front row starters in the field today. This one on the late model stock side. We'll go down to Pike.
Thank you, Eric. I've got Layne Riggs with me, who is back in a fun one-off run for Tom Usry Racing. And Layne, a little bit just a moment ago, not your first time, not only with the car show, obviously, but with this sort of rodeo, because 2 years ago we had this sort of rain delay. So mentally, how do you approach it? And does the experience of being in that race help you today, knowing that we're going to run a city or a pretty similar blueprint?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to really affect it at all. I mean, the track's going to be green, obviously. But the good thing is the pro cars will be back on there before we are. But either way, we got a really good starting spot. I feel like we were one of the best in the daytime conditions in practice. So I feel like that is really going to get to play in our hands, considering that we're not allowed to make any adjustments on the cars. So, yeah, I think this is just going to play right into what we need. But like I said, super thankful to everybody at Tom Usry Racing and Kenneth Packer and Jody and Marcus and everybody at RNS Race Cars for letting me come out here and drive this thing. And yeah, it's been the 72 hours of Hickory so far. So it's we're all ready to get racing. I know the fans are ready to be here. I mean, to be a Sunday crowd, show up this much already, sticking it out. It's just super thankful to everybody that's here at Hickory Speedway and that's sticking it out to watch this great late model racing. And yeah, I'm ready to get on the racetrack. I've been waiting around too long, and I wouldn't call it antsy, but I'm ready to get racing for sure.
Was the setup, and I know this is a gamble and probably something that I don't think a lot of people would have thought about, but was there any thought in your mind of maybe trying to make sure that this car was set up with the potential for this to play out the way that it has, given that we've had rain on the forecast for a few days now?
Not really. I feel like we were going to be set up for night or day either way. The car's just been really, really good off the trailer. Everything that we've done in practice is just learn what not to do, which is a really good feeling, and definitely the best car I've ever had at this racetrack. I feel like this isn't a racetrack that I've done that well at. I've never won a Cars Tour race here. I ran up front a lot, but just never really been able to get the job done. But this weekend, I really have a good feeling about it, and I feel like just over the time, experience in the truck series, and just becoming a smarter race car driver is really going to pay off in this long race.
When you were regularly running the Cars Tour, I think you know just as well as you do, your expertise was on the flat tracks, low banking, a lot of braking. This was not necessarily your sort of wheelhouse. Sort of to your point, do you feel like the Truck Series experience has helped you with these higher grip, higher bank tracks?
I'm going to give more credit to the team and having a better car here. I feel like our setup on the Riggs Racing team was more based around the flat track stuff. And I do feel like I'm a pretty good flat track racer, but I think I can win anywhere. And I think just having the experience and having multiple cars to lean off of in this camp is just doing nothing but helping our case. But like I said, testament to my team, this car has been great since we unloaded it. And I just got to do my job behind the wheel now. Their job's done. They can sit and watch and relax and hopefully cheer me on up front.
Speaking of cars, you've got a great story behind this year's Throwback. Of course, you've got your dad, Scotty Racing Cup, so plenty of choices to choose from. Why the number 2 this year, and what's the story behind picking that scheme to run in this Throwback Classic?
Yeah, just a lot of family heritage, also with the Tom Usher Racing team, Long Brothers Racing that still does our engines. It was a big culmination there. It's his 1999 late model season, driving for the Long Brothers. And that car was the most dominant thing he ever driven, and it's kind of what put him on the map to get his big opportunity. So, it made a lot of cool memories that I got to hear about. I wasn't born yet. This is a couple of years before I was born, but a lot of cool stories were getting told this past weekend.
I have to believe, Eric and Blake, that if things pan out the way Layne Riggs wants them to, and with all due respect to Prince, Layne would like to party like it's 1999 in Cookout Victory Lane at the end of this evening. $50,000. Richard, look for the black side skirt, or the checkered side skirts on the black car. That'll be Layne Riggs number 2 later on this afternoon.
Great looking race car that Layne Riggs has out there. And again, it's just as fast as what he was mentioning with Scott and what he was able to do with that race car just over 25 years ago. I mean, it has been just as fast all weekend long. And Eric, I think in an early part of that talk there with James, Layne made a really good point about how this car would handle in practice. Again, made the mention that they haven't been able to make any adjustments since they've gone through and impounded these cars yesterday. And they've kind of had to sit there, but this is going to be kind of a unique circumstance because it doesn't matter whether it's Cars Tour, Triple Crown, what have you. It's always been the case of these cars practice and test, whether they've been out here for a couple of days or they're a part of the official practice sessions. They have to do so during the day, but then they always race at night. It's not going to be the case, we think, as far as today is concerned, that it's going to be an afternoon race. How is that going to change this dynamic for these teams? Because again, it's something that we just don't often see. You're always trying to run practice thinking about, okay, it's going to be nighttime, it's going to be different, but now you're in a totally different situation.
And now we're in a pretty much an unknown as far as how long this weather is going to linger. So that pendulum could swing back in the other direction as well, depending on how late into the afternoon we're going to go here. And one of the reasons why there is a lot of emphasis on this race is something we've been talking about over the course of the last 3 days, the purse, the prize. We called it the biggest paying night in asphalt short track racing. It may end up being the biggest paying day in asphalt short track racing when all is said and done. But nevertheless, every competitor in the field as to what's on the line for them. For 5 drivers, they could walk out of here $80,000 richer. FloRacing's Rob Blount had a chance to run his way through the pit area a couple of days ago and posed the question to many drivers, what would it mean and what would you do if you were fortunate enough to win one of these races?
The Cars Tour heads to Hickory Motor Speedway on August 2nd for the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing, and for the first time, $50,000 are on the line for the late model stock cars. We caught up with someone to find out how much this means to them and the discipline as a whole to be racing for big money like that.
Long time coming. We race for a good bit of money within reason, week to week, but the weekly stuff in general has really struggled as far as having a purse that keeps up with the cost, and it's no secret stuff is expensive. It costs a lot to come do it, and unfortunately it continues to get more expensive. So to see the money starting to trickle into our form of motorsport is nice, and we are considered the top level of late model racing, especially here in the Southeast. So to see the purses increase and us having the opportunity to race for substantial amount of money is nice. It's exciting, and it gives you good hope, looking forward to the future, that if we are putting on a show at this level and the races are entertaining and the people are in the stands and we are able to put on a great product, that the money will follow. And I feel like right now the ownership of the Cars Tour, NASCAR, Flo, everyone is making a strong effort make that the case and put money up for grabs so that we can showcase what we can do and get rewarded for it.
I mean, it means a lot because it's really, setting the bar. I would love if we had more races like that because, it makes a big difference on how far these things go. Like, that's going to be basically our tires for, 3 or 4 like a ton. Like, that's a lot of races of tires and paying for the stuff and fuel. It means a lot. Even with, the bottom of the purses being raised in a lot of these different races means a lot. But I love it. I'm happy that it's going to be at Hickory because I got a billion laps there. So I'm glad it's not at one of these tracks I'm going to for the first time. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's obviously awesome. I mean, I think, we put on a show good enough that can contend with some of the other series that are, making a little bit more money doing what they do. And I think it's a huge testament to what FloRacing is doing for our sport. And two, I think it's a testament to how competitive and the attraction there is to late model stock car racing right now, especially in the Southeast. And just the shot to be able to perform on a stage that big for, kind of for a check that big, for a prize that big, I think brings even more light to the sport. And I think it's just kind of like a snowball effect where FloRacing has given us the exposure. Now the purse has increased, which until it makes the exposure go up even more. And I just think hopefully this thing can keep snowballing and turn into something where, it might be something that's a little bit more prevalent in our sport.
Like you just said, finally. I mean, you got go-kart races, not knocking the guys in the go-kart world. I can't do what they do, but I mean, they pay 30, 40 grand things. It's nice to get a big money race, especially at such a historic place like Hickory for everything it's done for short track racing and late model racing. It's awesome, and I'm happy that we're going to try to be a part of it.
When it came out, I was pretty shocked. That particular race has always had a lot of prestige to it, and now they've just raised the bar and made it that much more. As a late model stock competitor, I'm obviously very happy about money now coming into our division, and I think it could potentially lead to some other things in the future. And just kudos to Flo and everybody that was involved with being able to raise the purse, and I think everybody's in for a great show.
Yeah, I think it's huge for the sport. I think it's good to get a lot of people out there. Obviously, you're going to have a bunch of cars there just because the payout's so big, but I think it's good for the sport, putting late model racing out there like that. But it's going to be a big race. Hopefully, we're pretty good for it. They're going to go test a couple times before we get there in a couple weeks.
Yeah, especially late model stocks. Pro and super racing's always been big, but I think stock racing has definitely been overlooked in its time. So I'm really happy that this is happening. I'm really happy that we have opportunities to go and do what we're doing, and especially for teams that run out of their own shop and have a couple of buddies help themselves and just go race. So yeah, it's really awesome that we're getting to go and do this, and the Triple Crown is a good bump up. It's been the same for the past couple of years, so it's really nice to see that getting jumped up, and just something to give people to go race for. Just go and just not just go and have fun with your buddies and just go and just race. Now you're actually really racing for something. So it's only going to get bigger, and I can't wait for the coming years to have even more races on national TV and have the chance to run for even more money throughout the season. And hopefully I'm still able to go and do that.
Welcome back to FloRacing's coverage of the Throwback Classic at Hickory Motor Speedway for the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear. We're here with PLR's Kaden Honeycutt, current race leader in the PLMs after 41 laps. Kaden, what is your general assessment of what took place last night and how the first part of your race went?
Yeah, it went really well. I was trying to definitely either establish the lead early or ride behind in second, try to save tires. So the first couple laps went our way the way we needed to. Had good restarts. Yeah, it felt like we were in the right direction already. I don't really know what the rain's going to do and all this, what the rubber. I think it's going to brace the tires a little bit more. So yeah, we're going to do some stuff that we need to. My side, I'm just going to try to execute as best as I can on restarts. And hopefully bring home this $30,000 for this team. They've worked extremely hard. We've been here since Wednesday working on this thing and trying to make it better. So I just want to thank all of our crew, BLR, Fury Race Cars, Atlanta Paving Concrete, Cadillac Ranch, and everyone that supports our deal. So appreciate all these guys that are working very hard to put us in the spot. And as people know, we ran here in July and ran horribly. So we came back with a lot of revenge and a chip on our shoulder to bring back a fast race car and contend for this win tonight.
How did you tweak it from a few weeks ago in that PLM specific race to this? What did you do on the car just to get it to work a little bit better and work in your favor?
Yeah, we changed a lot of our, I want to say spring package of what we brought. Last time we were here, we thought it would have been really good for ride quality and turn. So then we went back and JC and these guys put their minds together and they came with something a little bit different and it ended up being a lot better. So like I said, really happy with where we're at right now as a program, and we're getting better every week. So, yeah, just want to thank all these guys for working hard and putting us in the spot to win this. And hopefully this rain holds off and goes away, and we can go back and try to win this $30,000 the right way.
Pretty good battles with Spencer Davis at the front of the field, too. You two were racing for lead on multiple occasions. Do you have a sense of how hard you were pushing your car and sort of what more you have to give going into these final 56 laps?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of at the essence of whether we would hit lap 50 or not. So when I had the lead, I was definitely trying to take it as early as possible and try to save the tires as best as possible and try to keep speed up. This tire don't really benefit too much saving, so yeah, just tried to keep my track position the best I could. Yeah, we had a good race there for the lead. I think when the rain started hitting harder and harder is when the intensity picked up for sure. If we got to lap 50, then the race would have been called. So, yeah, definitely at that last restart, we definitely went all out to try to get each other. So, yeah, it's been a good race so far, very clean so far, and we'll try to keep it that way and represent this tour well and trying to win this $30,000 the right way and battle with the right guys. And we got the right group in the top 5 to go do that for sure.
We've been asking everybody about the stories behind their throwbacks all weekend long. Yours is maybe the most 60s sort of style throwback across both the PLMs and the late models. So for those who aren't familiar, what is the story behind your throwback blue and orange 47?
Yeah, so this is a Doug Bryson throwback to Dustin Bryson, his son. Yeah, Doug was an absolute animal back in his day, and he won a lot of races. So he raced with a lot of Hall of Famers. There's actually a car in the Dawsonville Museum that looks exactly like Doug's car. So those guys went at it and won a lot of races together. So yeah, just really cool to have his uncle on our race car, and he was successful here too. So it'd be really awesome to win in the throwback and to try to bring it home for this crew and for Dustin as well.
Trying to take a car that looks a lot like one of the fastest rides in Georgia some decades ago, turn it into a race winner here at Hickory. Kaden Honeycutt, current leader for Bryson Lopez Racing in the Pro Late Models.
Thanks, Pike. And, you know, Kaden Honeycutt, of course, has been on the scene for quite some time, displaying his talents in just about everything he gets his hands on. But, Blake, one of the things that really sticks out about Kaden, he's got a pretty full plate. He won the Snowball Derby, driving with a race team that he's had a long-time relationship, running a late model stock for Tom Usry Racing that's been around for a while. Of course, with the Bryson Lopez team that he won the championship with, or wrapped up the championship with in 2024. And the full-time job is driving the NASCAR Craftsman truck for Nice Motorsports. And Kaden's ability to plug himself into any race team and not just show up with a helmet bag with the expectation of being a driver and driver only. He makes himself as integral of a part of each organization that he associates himself with and just joins the family. And I think that's one of the reasons why Kaden is able to elevate just about every organization he touches, because he's more than just a racer. He's an incredible person on and off the racetrack, but boy, does he plug himself into what is a true team mentality, and the results show on the racetrack in everything he drives.
Well, I remember talking to some crew members that were a part of some of his initial starts in the Craftsman Truck Series when he was taking a couple rides on a part-time basis, and hearing those crew members describe his attention to detail and being able to try and work on race cars and to try and improve them during the race is something that, again, we get a lot of drivers that go up to the national level, and being able to provide great feedback for their crew chiefs to be able to improve their race cars during a race is something that he's been very naturally talented in since he stepped behind the wheel. And he's just one of those drivers. We have many of them along with Kaden in the field today who just, they'll hop behind the wheel of anything, and they're able to garner all of that experience, because any seat time, pretty much any seat time is good seat time. And he's been able to take advantage of that. Currently sitting 6th in the Craftsman Truck Series driver standings right now, trying to make the playoffs, 73 above the cut line, and in a pretty good position to do that. So balancing a lot for a lot of these guys. And, I mean, heck, we just talked to Layne Riggs. He's the most recent Craftsman Truck Series winner at IRP just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, from the veteran prowess of, say, a Layne Riggs to a Kaden Honeycutt, how about one of the most impressive rookies in 2025? On the late model stock side with the Cars Tour, Donovan Strauss is with Pike.
One of the drivers competing in the Throwback Classic for Hettinger Racing and making his first start later on in the Throwback Classic, Donovan Strauss. Donovan, how excited are you to get going in one of the biggest races on the Cars Tour calendar?
Yeah, it feels like it's been a marathon out here. You know, we've been here for 3 days, but I'm just ready to get going. I'm starting deep in the field, but I have a feeling we have a car that's going to race really well and be able to move forward. So I just kind of slipped on it in qualifying, but we got in the show on that provisional. So I'm just looking forward to go forward. You know, keep my FloRacing passing award going, and yeah, I'm just so I'm excited for this whole series and all these people that came out here that are waiting out the rain. We really appreciate y'all, and you know, we got big money up for grabs today, and I know we're gonna get it in. So I just I'm so grateful for the Ivy Active people. You know, the whole activation we did here this weekend has been amazing, and it's exceeded expectations, honestly. So I'm just ready to get going. I can't thank Justin Link and everybody enough on my 4-car enough for getting me ready to go, and I'm excited to do it.
For those who haven't been following your story for a while, this is something that you built towards for a long, long time, going all the way back to your Legend Car days and even your start on iRacing. So to be here, to have this sitting in front of you, and knowing that this is one of those sort of moments that you think about when you think about a Cars Tour season, how much of it is sort of a realization of a dream, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah, I mean, just how much is up for grabs and what's on the line today. It's, you know, everybody here. That's why we have so many cars here, because, you know, there's so much up on the line. So it's something, you know, I've looked forward to for a long time, and I'm so glad the series is progressing the way it is, and everybody involved is doing an amazing job. So I'm looking forward to putting on a show tonight, coming from 28th. So we're gonna give it hell.
I know, and you mentioned it just a few moments ago, but you've had a lot of partners come on board, especially in the middle of the year, Ivy Active heading the list. To have that sort of ground wall support and to have people that are beginning to believe in you in the way that they are and support you in that way, what has that done throughout the season for your confidence levels as a driver?
Yeah, I mean, we just have great partners, and we've had amazing partners, Liberty and Acan, Savaro, now Ivy Active throughout this year, and we're just continuing to grow and represent some great people. But the Ivy Active deal, it's been unique, and it's been a great opportunity for everyone. We appreciate everyone coming out and getting IVs this weekend, you know, and staying hydrated. I know it's not really hot out today with the rain, but Friday was pretty warm, so it's just been a great opportunity and a blessing to represent such great people.
You also mentioned, you sort of come from, I guess, the new school, new generation. You got your start originally on iRacing, currently compete in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, their top level of competition. We've had a few folks from that world here over the course of this week, and I saw former champion Steven Wilson in your pit, Chente Salas, I know you're close with. He was in the LCQ race to sort of walk through this journey together as you start making that transition from the sim to real life and start competing in late models. How neat is it to sort of lean on some of the other people in these pits and share those experiences together?
Yeah, it's just been a grind. The guy you just talked to, Kaden, he's helped me a lot with every track we've gone to. I always ask him for some advice, but it's just it's a unique switch, and it's just trying to adapt to different things. But I've had to do that my entire life, just adapting to the situation I'm in and being ready for whatever's coming my way. So, I feel like I have the least experience out here, but I just try and adapt and get adjusted as fast as I can. And, this year has taught me a lot about, the racecraft in the series and just the raw speed and how you have to race. And that's been the biggest challenge. But I feel like I've adapted pretty well. We're sitting really good in the points, and we're still in the hunt for this championship. So we still got a good few races to go. So we're going to keep chipping away at it. Hopefully we get a good result tonight and close up that gap a little bit.
This is a team, this is a group that has started to really build something, I think, throughout the course of 2025. You're seeing the snowball that is Hettinger Racing gain momentum week after week, race after race. Donovan Strauss and Hettinger Racing looking for an opportunity to make a big statement with a big run in the Throwback Classic a little bit later.
Thanks, Pike. And Donovan alluded to a couple of things there, one of which the sponsorship activation that the partners they've been able to bring on board, and it's been huge. He talked about the activation with IV Active, one of the IV treatment companies that have come on board with that car driver and team. And they actually presented an opportunity and a deal for many of the competitors over the course of the weekend if they scheduled their treatments ahead of time. And with how long these days and nights have been, I'm a big believer in IV therapy, especially after a long night at the racetrack. It's something that can certainly help rejuvenate you as soon as possible, and for Donovan and his partners to bring that to the masses that are with the Cars Tour certainly goes a long way. A lot of people are taking him up on that opportunity. But partnerships aside, the results have been remarkable. This is only going to be his 10th career late model stock start with the Tour. All 10 have come this season, in his rookie season. And because of how qualifying went down, he mentioned starting towards the tail end of the field, he's 8th in driver's points, in the top 10 in owner's points with that Hettinger Racing team. And he ended up with the last available points provisional to make the field. But he said they still feel like they have a good car. The box score shows it. He's finished in the top 10 in more than half the races at tracks where we've sent drivers home, places he's never been to before in a car of this nature. That kid has been very impressive, and the poise showed there in the long interview that he just had with Pike. He's ready and raring to go, and there's a lot of young drivers in the field that are having to mentally work through this type of circumstance for the first time in their racing career, and thus far, everyone's been doing a superb job, Donovan himself included. He'll be fun to watch.
Well, again, I think talking to both of the Hettinger Racing drivers that have been running on a full-time basis, whether it's Strauss or even Parker Eatman, who's not participating in this field tonight, talking about the importance of qualifying with those drivers and how big of a role it can play. Again, it's really difficult to do sometimes what Strauss has been able to accomplish this season. You think back at Wake County Speedway, started 21st, finished in the 8th position. At Ace, started 22nd, finished in 9th. Langley started 23rd, finished in 12th. To be able to have these big gains, again, it's the reason he's the current FloRacing Field Master leader in terms of passes that they've been able to make throughout the season. But it's one of those things, I think they have a group of young drivers right now, and they're trying to learn and kind of put a complete weekend together. That's a phrase you hear a lot talking to a lot of these drivers, is a complete weekend, a complete event, because you can have a race-winning race car when you get to 125 laps, but if you're mired deep in the field, you're not going to be able to make your way through a Cars Tour field to be able to win these races. So being able to execute both early in the day on Saturday and qualifying, and late at night, Saturday night when the green flag drops, it's so vitally important, and I think that's why, again, you see so many Cars Tour drivers who go to other series and experience so much success, because they learn it in such a big way in this series, because you're almost not going to find a more competitive series anywhere in the country.
Now, Donovan Strauss is one of 57 drivers that entered into the 2 races here on the Throwback Classic weekend presented by FloRacing, with so much money on the line. And I'm sure every driver posed the question to themselves, what would I do if we were able to win one of these races or both? Well, luckily for us, FloRacing's Rob Blount was able to pose that question to several competitors. Here's what they all had to say.
with $50,000 on the line on Saturday, August 2nd at Hickory Motor Speedway in the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing. We know we're going to see some fireworks. We caught up with some of the late model stock car guys to find out what they're willing to do. Will they wreck their mother? Will they wreck their teammate? We asked them to find out exactly what they're willing to do for 50 grand on Saturday night.
He's going to get back here first. Millington into the back of Connor Hall. He spins out, and Ryan Millington is going to cross the line in first, but is it going to stand?
Well, I can't do what I did last year because I didn't actually win it last year from doing what I did. So going to have to make the pass clean, and hopefully we can have another shot at winning it this year. I think we do. We definitely got a good piece right now, so we'll see. Should be a fun race, no doubt.
Yeah, they're going to need a clip. I think. I mean, seriously, like when it comes down to it, because like if I was leading, you better ship that thing in there to the point that I can't get to you, because I would imagine that if I was leading, whoever's second, doesn't matter who it is, they would do the same to me. You know what I mean? Like when you're racing for that type of purse, it comes down to the money. Like it's not another second place. Like you said, it's a $43,000 difference between first and second.
You know, I feel like I take a lot of pride in how I race people, and it's bit me in the ass a few times. You know, Martinsville comes to mind, of course. Had a shot at winning that and didn't get rough with it, but it was a great finish. And I take a lot of pride in how I raced that night, but I also think about it a lot and think, man, if you were a little more aggressive or willing to knock somebody out of the way to an extent, you know, you might have a Martinsville clock in my living room. Think about that, but, you know, I still feel like I hold true to my racing value and how I race. And, you know, I think you can get rough and be aggressive without being, you know, deliberate and ruining the race. So I'm all for a good race and a good finish and, you know, a respectful one at that. So I take, you know, pride in that, and I don't feel like I would overstep. But come down to it at the end of the race, and that money's on the line, you know, might have to use the right front fender a little bit more than normal, but hopefully not wreck someone and hopefully put on a good show to the finish.
I'm willing to do anything and everything that won't get me penalized. I've been a part of the series for long enough to know how race control likes to handle things. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think in that particular race it's going to be a very good thing, because otherwise it would just be a wreck fest, and none of us want that, not for ourselves, not these race teams, all the hard work that goes into these very nice race cars, and then obviously, you know, the main thing is putting on a great show for the fans. So, but, you know, like I said, I definitely would be lying if I said I'm not willing to do, you know, everything to the line without crossing that line to be able to get the job done.
Obviously, I'm gonna get into him, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it the right way. You know what I mean? You can't just run down to the corner and blast a guy and turn him. You got to get into him and lean him. Don't get me wrong. I'd wreck my mama to win it. I'm just throwing that out there. But you've also got to be smart in the way you do it. And if I'm leading and you get into me and I'm fixing to lose a bunch of spots, I'm gonna spin myself, because you're not winning either, to be honest.
Well, if anybody remembers what Millington and Connor Hall raced with last year, that was they weren't scared to do that. So I mean, I'd wreck my mother to win a race. Like, it's just, especially for something like that, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, I also have to know how that will come back and haunt you one day too. So you know, it just a matter of like how cleanly you can do it, but also like make it to where it doesn't make a call to like, all right, well, you definitely intentionally wreck the guy to win the race. So you know, the Millington and Hall deal last year at Hickory, or the I can't remember when it was. I guess it was last year. You know, just got to do it a little bit different than that. So if you can do it differently that way and still manage to win the race, I think that will show a lot. So yeah, definitely I would say to wreck somebody to win, but you are not going to get away with it, definitely with this tour and anywhere else that you go across the country.
Welcome back to coverage of the Throwback Classic at Hickory Motor Speedway for the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear. I'm here with the Kawicki Driver Development Program, Seth Christensen, running P5. And Seth, your first crack at this, and one of your first cracks at Hickory, what are your initial impressions of not only this track, but this weekend?
Man, this place is hard. We came here and tested a little bit ago and quickly learned that it's not easy. 3 and 4, 1 and 2 are so much different, and just getting to learn the characteristics of the track has been very important coming here and testing, and the prior 2 days of testing as well. So I think we've got a good shot. We're in the top 5 here after the weather delay, but hopefully we got a good shot. We haven't had the short run speed that we've liked, but we've had pretty good long run speed. So if this can go green, I think we'll be in good shape.
Is that the biggest thing that you've learned over these first 41 laps? It's just you're trying to figure out how to maybe pull that balance back a little bit towards center and find more speed when you fire off?
Yeah, I think restarts, I haven't been so good on the restarts very lately this year, but it's kind of just the way we have our car set up. We've been very good on the long run, but short run stuff, we're just kind of trying to find a middle ground, you know? You don't want to give up too much of your long run, have better short runs, but we have 40 laps of green until the next caution, we know, so we're kind of having that into consideration, just trying to keep our right front and right rear on at all times.
You are a Georgia native. This is a little bit of a hike for you, as are a lot of these cars to races, but there's always a reason why drivers like you make that trek. So for Seth Christensen, why is it so important to step a little bit away from your natural footprint and come to compete in these car store shows?
Well, it's the competition, really. These guys are so good, and everybody gets everything out of these cars. To come and race here is always a pleasure, and it's an honor to represent the Kawicki program as well. But I'm super glad to have the Hooters on the car this weekend to represent for the Throwback weekend.
And how important is that? I know that's a really, really big thing for you. I know KDDP's been so big in developing not only you as a person, but your career, but to have the Kawicki Throwback to represent that legacy. What does that mean to you this weekend?
It means a ton. Just getting to represent Allen and throw it back to the 1992 season has just been super cool. And the amount of fans here as well has just been awesome. Getting to meet so many cool people. It's just overall, it's been great.
And let's not forget, and for those who might have been on today, there were representatives from the local Hooters location here on site at Hickory Motor Speedway. And let's also not forget that Hooters has a very, very big piece of the legacy of this series. When you go back to the old Pro Cup days, it was Hooters that was the title partner on that. So Seth Christensen sort of balled into all of that, looking to put together a good run that might turn some heads, not only for those paying attention to the KDDP, but also the Car Store PLM seat as well.
Thanks, Pike. I've been very fortunate to have a little bit more of an increased involvement with the Kawicki Driver Development Program. And, you know, there are 5 really incredible drivers all vying for a tremendous opportunity, but just being tagged as a finalist, especially on the heels of watching one of the driver development champions of years past, Ty Majeski, become the first to win a national championship in one of the top 3 series in NASCAR just a year ago, adds all the more prestige to that program that continues to honor Allen's legacy. And there are many members of that championship winning team in 1992 that are not only a part of that program, but travel to the races that their finalists are competing in to try to offer additional assistance and guidance. And there's a lot more to check out there as well. And along with the Throwback paint scheme, everyone could go to KawickiDDP.com to learn more about the program, its initiatives and efforts. Donation links are available as well, but that has certainly paved the way for many drivers and competitors who wear that finalist badge as a badge of honor, as do some of the semifinalists, and Seth Christensen certainly fits all the criteria, and he's been a pleasure to join on several Cars Tour races already, including a handful in 2025, and I'm sure he is itching, like the rest of us, to get back going here at Hickory, with some drivers and team members trying to stay fresh, some of them tossing around a pigskin. We're on the heels of football season. The sky is lightening a little bit, but unfortunately the mist is still falling, and the track crew remains diligent as to whenever they can get a head start on trying to get this racetrack dry.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of drivers kind of hanging out around that turn 4 area. Saw Luke Baldwin. It looked like he had a pretty decent arm right there. Doug Barnes, a couple others just trying to stay loose. And I think we heard it from Donovan Strauss's point of view just a little bit earlier. And Eric, I think it's a lot more true for these late model stock car competitors and kind of the situation that they've been put in over the last couple of days. The last time they were on track was Friday night. You know, a couple of these guys, they've had the opportunity to sit in their race car Saturday, but it was for tech. They rolled through the tech line, and that was it. So they're just, I think, itching and just ready to go. They're not a very patient group, drivers are, and I think just this out and see how all of this plays out, then have the Pro Late Model race take place. They're just in a situation right now. They've been chomping at the bit the days, doing all their preparation that they can do, which at this point they can't really touch their race cars at all. So they're just in a big waiting pattern, just trying to get ready to get this race in. You can still see that's a couple of drops that are dropping off some of the tents right there, but you kind of get a gauge right there. You can see it's not very significant rain that's falling, but it's just enough to dampen the racetrack and put us in the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, to add to your point, I was fortunate enough to catch up with Carson Lofton, the rookie in the Nelson Motorsports number 22 earlier today, and said, what is this like mentally? And it's not just been one day and one occasion. It's stretched out now over the days. And he said, honestly, I walked into the racetrack today knowing it's another race day. And if the weather hits, I've been there before. We've all been through rain delays. That's not so bad. He did admit, though, the one element that kind of got him a little bit was the hour and 10-minute delay on Friday before qualifying, because he was one of the first few out that had to hit the racetrack. Still timed in 5th fastest, but that's a driver who has always seemed to approach these things with a positive attitude, and he's very happy with that Nelson Motorsports team, multi-time championship-winning organization, and he's another rookie to inside the top 10 in drivers' points. He comes into this race 9th in the standings with 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. And I'm sure that whenever we are able to get this race off and running, he, along with everybody else, will be able to forward, put all of the uncertainty of the schedule and weather behind him, and be able to focus on the task at hand, and that is winning this race whenever we get it off the ground. How about Matthew Dillner having a bit of a fun there? I don't know if that was a rain dance. That'll make the blooper reel when we're done. We've got plenty of coverage to add to it. But look at the fans who remain in the grandstands. They're not going anywhere.
Well, full transparency here, we have some members of our Flow content team that are watching in the booth with us, and I think that's what they're doing right now is marking, okay, where is this going to be so we can clip that later for the blooper reel at the end of the season. But Eric, you got to think, too, in terms of drivers and patience and whatnot. Again, we talked about kind of the delay in qualifying on Friday. A lot of these teams, because of the amount of money that's on the line here, it was $2,500 to start this race. All 30 drivers in the late model stock car field at least will receive that. It was $1,500 to start for the pro late models. But because of that, this hasn't been just a 2-3 day excursion for a lot of these teams. There's been plenty of these teams down here in the pit area. They've been down here since Thursday, since Wednesday, since even Tuesday, testing and trying to dial their cars, and they've spent a lot of time for this race. And I think that just adds to it. This is such an important race for all of these competitors, and yet we're still kind of in that holding pattern.
Well, race fans, if you're watching along on FloRacing, get the camera phone out and be sure to record what we're about to show you. And we're going to go back and watch our very own Matthew Dillner show us the dance moves that he has set up for us. And he probably has no idea. I've seen dance before by drivers and teams hoping for the rain to come to maybe shorten a race. I think Matthew's trying to make sure that the rain will go away so we can get going. That's got to be one of his career highlights right there, having that moment there. He loves the spotlight. He introed the show. Maybe we'll use that to wrap up the show when we get racing going here at the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. And I can't say enough about these fans. Now, granted, a lot of them have gone back to their cars to keep themselves out of some of the inclement weather that remains and lingers here. But, I mean, the passion of these race fans, it's unbelievable. And I think it says a lot not only about the tour and this race, but this place as well. And it's such a challenge. And that was something else, Blake, that we were talking about. A lot of competitors who have not been racing a late model stock car here for several years, they find it really difficult to get used to getting around this place. You're someone who's turned laps here before in a race car. This place is rough, it's rugged, and it could take a little bit in order to get things going and to get comfortable with it.
It's a totally different situation now. Granted, I didn't really have experience at other racetracks, so I had nothing really to base it off of or compare to. But I think a couple of days ago, we saw on social media, you can go back and see an onboard footage that was taken a couple of weeks ago when the Pro Late models were here, where Kaden Honeycutt was in practice, and you could see, and even he was very quick to point out how bumpy this place is, the characteristics of it. When we had the little visor cam, or that camera that kind of rides on board a driver's eye view, if you will, there's no part of this racetrack where it's sitting steady, where even when you're going down the straightaway, there's something that's always bouncing around. You can even see on our speed shot right here, these concrete patches that have kind of been laden throughout the speedway with certain parts of this track that have gotten more attention over the last couple of years. Again, this track was last paved in the 1960s. That's how old this surface is. It's what makes it so great and unique. It's something that as the years continue to go on, that character is just added to it. We talked a lot yesterday about the significant bump in turn 4. I remember driving over that in a limited late model just a couple of years ago and talking to some of these drivers, Michael Bumgarner included, who's the reigning track champion, talks about how every year it goes on, that bump's not getting better, it's getting more significant, it's getting worse. But it's what makes this track such a unique challenge, and that's why we see a lot of old school drivers, I think, with an old school mentality usually end up rising to the top here at Hickory.
Well, speaking of drivers, I believe James Pike has been able to wrangle a herd of them together down in the pit lane who are all trying to stay fresh. Pike, who you got down there?
I've got a whole host of people here, Eric. You step out from underneath the tents and you go down the middle of pit road, and all of a sudden you run into our football fans. And that also happen to make up drivers from a bunch of different collectives. So, Landon Huffman competing in the late model race. You've got Owen Zacharias, who's run a lot of Bando and Legend races. Tristan McKee, who's competing in both races tonight. Carson Lofton, who's going to be running in the late model race. And Cam Truitt himself, superstar of the summer shootout that you can also see on FloRacing. So we'll go sort of down the line here. Landon, we'll start with you. How neat is it to be here and to be running the throwback that you are for your dad? We talked a little bit about it during qualifying, but to honor that legacy in this series in particular where y'all have had so much success, how big is this?
Oh, it's really cool. You know, I've wanted to run this race for the past 2 years, and it just hasn't worked out where we've been able to. And I've always really wanted to throw back to one of my dad's cars. I didn't really care which one. I just wanted to do one of them. I just thought it'd be really cool. And luckily enough, we reached out to the Lackey family, and they were all on board about it. So I can't thank them enough for coming on and doing it for us and helping us out for this race. But I think the car looks sick. I like it. It's I love the color red, and that's what it is. So I love it. But yeah, it's really cool to be out here for this race, and a race I've wanted to run for so long now.
Neat stuff for LSH. Owen, we'll turn around here and come to you. You've frequented the pits at a lot of these races, even though you haven't had the chance to start the race. Is this something that sort of down the line you'd be interested in running, maybe trying to do a PLM or a late model stock car race?
You know, it's always in the order. I think this is eventually what I'd like to do at some point in time. I kind of got to get a little more experience in smaller cars, kind of gain some car control, gain like knowledge on the sport, and find some sponsors. You know, it's getting expensive lately, so we got to find some guys that want to hop on board with us, and hopefully we can go on down the line and be a good competitor for this car store.
So Owen Zacharias, maybe a name to watch as we turn our attention to, I guess, our resident quarterback now, Tristan McKee. Are you a good pigskin hurler, I suppose?
No, not at all.
Not at all? Okay, you're a better race car driver, I guess?
Much better.
All right, well then, how do you feel here after these first 40 laps of the PLMs?
I don't know. I think we should just send them right now in this rain. I felt pretty good when it was raining a little bit last night, so I don't know if we'll dry the track or what's going on, but we're having fun down here in the pits.
Do you feel like the change in conditions, does that help you maybe more than hurt? Are you somebody that maybe benefits from just at least daytime racing compared to the night?
Well, yesterday when it started to sprinkle a little bit, it was a little more slick, so I was probably a little bit better in that condition, but I raced in the rain before in the TA2 stuff, so I have a little bit of experience doing that. So definitely have a little bit of experience doing that stuff, and hopefully we can get the track dry here soon and get on the track.
All right, has having the extra night to think about it, has that sort of changed your perspective on how big it would be to get the 80K and compete in the sleep, especially since you are starting on pole for the big show later?
Yeah, anytime you think about it, it definitely gets cooler and cooler, and the more you realize I'm starting on the pole, you know, it gets greater and greater every time you think about it. So hopefully we can pull it off and get the track dry here and hopefully get the win.
Tristan McKee, I think, wants to go back to racing. We turn our attention now to Carson Lofton, who's been driving the 22 all season for Nelson Motorsports. Carson, your first crack here at Throwback. You look back at the beginning of the season to now, where have you grown the most as a driver in a late model stock car?
I'd say qualifying. At first, I barely struggled to make the field in these cars. So finally, we got qualifying down for now at least. Going to be rolling off fifth tonight. I feel like we got a really good car. Just super thankful for this opportunity for everybody involved.
How tricky has this place been to really sink your teeth into a get right over the course of this weekend, especially with the changing conditions?
Right, it's been definitely pretty hard. I've got a lot of laps around here in a modified, but doesn't really correlate into a late model. So just had to figure it out pretty quick because we didn't have a whole lot of practice on Friday. Like I say, I feel like we had a pretty good car for tonight, or if we get to racing tonight. So we'll see.
Do you feel like this stage, does this make a little bit different race than maybe a traditional spring Hickory race or even the fall brawl?
For sure. I mean, a lot more money on the line. So just super thankful for Flo and the car store for putting it on.
Carson Lofton going to have an opportunity later. And now we turn our attention to Keelan Truitt. And Kim, I noticed that you have a bit of an addition to your polo, a TBA. Is there something that the fans at home potentially should know, maybe?
Well, you know, we got a big announcement coming up for Keelan Truitt. Sonic is a partner for 2025. You know, I'm super appreciative for all the opportunities we get. And make sure to go grab you a Keelan slushie today.
There is nobody that can cut a promo in this sport like Keelan Truitt. And I have a feeling, give it a few years, let him get to the age where he can run a pro late model. I wouldn't be shocked, Eric and Blake, if we see him competing in the Cars Tour, maybe even in a few football games too. Look at that. He got the throw from about, call it 25, 30 yards. Maybe he's a better wide receiver than he is a stock car driver. Who knows?
Yeah, but Pike, when you cut a deal like that, you can't afford to get injured, my friend. He's got to be careful down there. We're going to welcome one of the members of the FloRacing content team, Rob Blount, and Keelan is the gift that just keeps on giving, man. How about that?
I don't know what was better there, Eric and Blake. The sponsor reveal or the running grab there. I mean, that was really impressive in the wet weather. I mean, that was something.
The kid's got it all. I mean, I've had a blast watching him come up through the ranks in summer shootout. And how about this? So we've got Matthew Donor standing down here. So we got both of the members of the FloRacing content team who have been here. Pike, what's Matthew thinking about all this? Does he know that we got his dancing moves on camera earlier? He's on the highlight reel now.
Well, I was going to ask him about that. So apparently, you know, when you're not calling races at Bowman Gray or shooting content for Flo, you're a dancing superstar. Are we going to see you on Dancing with the Stars at some point?
I mean, why not? I mean, if you got an umbrella here at the racetrack or you're watching at home, you're getting a little anxious, you got to get a little energy. Cam, should we do a rain dance, buddy? We're going to do a rain dance on camera? I know what it is. What's a rain dance? What would we do? Like, what's your move? All right. Okay, what about? Is that better? Is that better?
It's like a ninja or like Dragon Ball Z.
Top it. Top my move.
He had the attempt, right? So this is what happens during regular speed.
We know Carson Lofton can't dance, so you know I was hoping that Killa could dance. I don't know.
Well, how about this? If we spin this back to reality a little bit and maybe grab the reins.
Yes.
You had the opportunity to go to Bowman Gray last night. You ended up here instead.
Yes.
Why is this race this weekend so important that you're at Hickory instead of the Madhouse?
Simply put, history. So if you look at this place and the history that it holds, from John Settlemeyer Jr. to Dink Widenhouse to Ned Setzer to Tommy Houston, whatever it is, this is one of the truly great racetracks in America, not just North Carolina. And she's a little rough around the edges. She's a little bumpy. She's a little old. But what better place to have a Throwback Classic? And I'm proud. Obviously, we're on FloRacing. I'm proud that Flo has come alongside Cars Tour, which in my opinion is one of the best short track series in America, to put on a race like this. Because I know what a cool hit this race is always, even before Flo came on, back in the day with the Throwback 276. But now making it a big money race hopefully makes this a crown jewel that we can enjoy, a cultural experience with the throwback hats and the throwback clothes and the throwback paint schemes. And it's something that asphalt racing fans can celebrate and come to each year.
Why is the history of this track and this event and what it's becoming and its nods to years gone by, drivers from the past, why does that mean so much to you?
Obviously, Dale and I did a show called Lost Speedways, okay? And my passion for that came from when I was a child. I was a real young kid, and I lost my home track, Islip Speedway in Long Island, New York. And I went to bed that night, and I'll never forget, the emotion, like crying myself to sleep, but I didn't want my mom to see. So when I moved here to North Carolina, I would go visit Metrolina regularly when it was closed down and just go walk around or sit in the stands. And I remember sitting in stands, and they had stands just like this, the concrete grandstands, and just feeling that emotion of a torn up, dilapidated, overgrown racetrack that, you know, had such great racing. And I never want to see that to any racetrack in America, anyone, I don't care what it is. And you come to a place like this and you walk in the gates here, you know, you fans sitting in the stands that are sitting here and just enjoying it, even though it's raining and it's somber kind of right now. You're here because you love it. And when you think of a place like this, it's like, God, we can't let places like this shut down. They're too important to us. They mean too much. They're a living, breathing creature. And that's where it comes from, James. I mean, it's not fake. It comes from my heart from when I was a 8-year-old kid that lost his home track, that now that I'm a North Carolinian, I've come here for 20-something years. This place, Bowman Gray, Tri-County, any of them, they're important to us. So.
And I think we'd be remiss not to talk about it since it's also on FloRacing. The Cars Tour run on the 16th, but 2 weeks beyond that left at Bowman Gray on the 9th and the 24th, and some good points battles shaping up there.
Yeah, there is. I mean, old Bowman Gray Stadium's been a little crazy this year. That's why they call it the Madhouse, but I'm proud to work alongside you with that. When you walk into that place, it's like walking into Wrigley Field. But then there's stuff that happens at Bowman Gray that's a little different than most. And some people like it, some people don't. But it's a reason why they get 16,000, 17,000 people there. It's unmistakable. It's still the most exciting of them all. And we say that as a punchline, a tagline, but it's the truth. It's a beautiful, beautiful place full of a lot of wildness, but it's spectacular on so many fronts.
And it's one of the many races in many weekly series that you can catch on FloRacing Live or on demand show. Plenty of content in addition to everything that you can see from the ZMAX Car Store presented by Sound Gear.
Thanks, gentlemen. I was about to say have fun down there, but it looks like that's already happening. Tremendous activity down trackside, and we're having a lot of fun up here as well. Once again, we'll welcome in Rob Lown. And Rob, I want to pose the same question that we did to Matthew at the start of that conversation. The Throwback event. You're someone who we've seen several times put pieces together and pose pivotal questions to drivers about what does the event mean? What does the race mean? What does the chance to win all that money mean? And there's a wide variety of answers, but the amount of passion is there. How about for you, for someone who's able to watch this all unfold from a very unique perspective? What is your vantage point of where the tour is at, where this race is at, and why we still have so many fans who are just not going anywhere because they want to see what this event can deliver on Flow?
We knew that it had the potential to be an absolutely massive event. Mother Nature is doing her absolute best to prevent that, but we're going to make sure that it still gets to be as big as it can possibly be. And when we all had the idea of putting on these big money races for both divisions, we talked about what racetracks we could do it at, and collectively a few of us said we should do it at Hickory during the Throwback. It's already become, since 2017, a crown jewel on the Cars Tour schedule. This, like Matthew said, is the perfect throwback racetrack in the Southeast. It's on the wall, the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. It's the absolute perfect place to do it at. And on top of all of the throwback factor that this place has, it also provides absolutely insane moments. I mean, we've seen it the last couple of years. We saw it last year. Ryan Millington and Connor Hall, final corner, what they were willing to do for a $10,000 check. Throw another $40,000 on the line. That's what we have today, and we knew what we were going to get. We saw even before that, Connor Hall in the April race, putting the bumper to Carson Quapple in 2023 coming to the line. That was for $7,000. Again, put
and
another
William Sawalich a year before that.
Exactly. This place provides moments normally. Then you go and put that money on the line, and we knew we were going to get some moments this weekend. That's why you look out at the hill behind turn 3. That parking lot is still absolutely jam-packed. I'd never seen this place look the way it did last night, and I tell you, until the rain decided to come back this afternoon, we were shaping up to have a really, really strong crowd here today too.
Yeah.
And I'll say, looking out at our vantage point of turns 3 and 4, and you can see it here on our speed shot, there may still be not as many people in the grandstands as there was before the rain started, but I have not seen many spaces open up in that parking lot as far as people who have gotten out of here. A lot of them probably have FloRacing up on the dashboard of the car. They're sitting out in the park for the raindrops to stop falling, to come on back into the racetrack to get ready to see some on-track activity. And that is, of course, our hope. And Rob, we don't get a chance to spend a lot of time with you, so I'll throw another question at you. the tour right now, the strength of the tour. Since the deal was struck with Flo a couple of years ago, you've been fortunate enough to follow along with everyone, along with Blake and I, to see how this series continues to evolve, but continues to get more competitive. Chief scorer Lee Watson helped the tour social media team put together a graphic. We had 7 ties amongst 42 cars in qualifying on Friday night. The margin from first to 42nd, less than 0.4 of a second. The competitive nature of this series is unbelievable, and we look at what Brendan Queen is doing on the ARCA Menard Series side as our defending champion, winning his 5th race there. I think it speaks so much volumes in a field this tight and this competitive. If you could succeed here, you could most likely succeed anywhere.
I mean, you look at, you mentioned first through 40th or whatever it was on Friday night in qualifying. First pole versus out of the show was 0.2 of a second. That's just incredible. I mean, I said it on Twitter. Cars Tour is just nutty right now because it is so close, and it provides incredible racing every single race because of that. I mean, when all of the cars are that close, what do you have to separate you? Your pure talent, and that's what we've been seeing a lot of this year. And you bring up Brendan Queen. The biggest thing that he realized that he struggled with in his 3 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series starts last year was knowing how the air was going to work on the bigger racetracks. Well, now he's sure figuring that out. He's up to 5 ARCA wins, and look who he keeps consistently beating. Brent Cruz, our Rookie of the Year from last year, who finished 3rd in points last year in a late model stock car series. I mean, all these drivers down here need to learn to succeed at the bigger tracks is how to race with the air, because they are learning their racecraft down here, and it's only going to help them out the further they advance.
Well, and I think you just look at all the drivers that we've seen competing over here in the last couple of years and winning here. Carson Kvapil being able to take advantage of his opportunities netted himself a NASCAR Xfinity Series ride. Even Connor Hall debuted in the Craftsman Truck Series last year. Richmond ran a great race, and we'll see what is on the horizons for that driver. But drivers who get in here, Brent Cruz comes in, he wins and is proving himself. Even Trayton Lapsovich, somebody who was brand new to late model stock car racing, has been out of the seat, comes back in this race and has a chance to chase 50 grand tonight. But even in one of his few opportunities, and again, especially for Trayton Lapsovich, he has to take advantage of every chance he gets to get behind the wheel of a race car. He was a winner in the Cars Tour last season. He was able to get it done in North Wilkesboro. And then one of his one-offs this year in the ARCA Menard Series, Eric, that you got to call, boom, he gets it done immediately. If you can win in this series, you can go anywhere and get the job done, is what recent history is showing us.
Now, driver talent aside, the series has also taken a massive step forward from an operational perspective. And for more on that, James Pike is standing by with Kip Childress, especially on a weekend that has required so much additional thought going into. And even with all the hurdles we've been dealt as far as weather, it's been a monumental accomplishment by all involved. Let's hear from Kip Childress, who's with Pike.
The executive director of the ZMAX Cars Tour, presented by Sound Gear. Kip Childress now joins us. Kip, I want to start by taking off the work hat and putting on the personal hat. I remember your first weekend with this series back in 23, Wake County over in Raleigh. It was pretty hot. To go from then to now, and as big as this weekend is, how much of this weekend and this event is sort of a marker in the sand for just you personally in your career?
Yeah, well, I've had an opportunity to really get to know this garage, and the teams, the drivers, and the car owners so much over the last 2.5 years, and so being here for this event, seeing the turnout that we've had, has been remarkable. It's obviously a downer that we're having to sit here in the middle of a little bit of weather, but to everyone's credit, spirits are fairly upbeat, and we're hopeful to still be able to get this thing in tonight.
Eric mentioned it right before we came down here. There were a lot of logistical operations challenges that went into making this weekend a success. Are there any, I don't know if fun stories is the right word, but things that, especially since we had the opportunity to talk to them, things that maybe the fans might not see that going into just making sure that people have places to park and that everything runs smoothly? And what kind of challenge has been that, or has that been for you and the Car Store team?
Yeah, it starts off with trying to build a schedule around what we're doing and wanting to make this feel like a marquee event. And so one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was making yesterday a race day, nothing but a race day. We came in and ran the LCQ and to have the 2 feature events set up to run and really give the fans an opportunity to get here early to enjoy an autograph session. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that on the track. I was really thankful that we did get a break in the weather to where we could shift up to the stands, and our drivers went up there, and I think every one of them ran out of hero cards. And so to be able to really give the fans the opportunity to interact with our drivers, and we tell them all the time, you just never know when you might be talking to your next sponsor, your next crew member, a future driver, whoever may come across the table or across your lap when you're up there with your hero cards in your lap. So, just to try to build that schedule. And then you're right, trying to fit, we had 72 cars on property this week here, and you see the size of a lot of these tractor trailers, a lot of the rigs that we have here, trying to make all of those fit and do so that where we can still do some work, the guys can still drive around during their practice sessions to try to keep those paths clear. So to try to do all of that, there's a lot that goes into that, and kudos to Kevin Piercy, the whole track staff here at Hickory. They laid a lot of fresh asphalt in the last several weeks to give us the opportunity to park in a different configuration on the backside of the racetrack, but it made it so much easier to work, for the flow to happen, and keep people more on the pavement and less on the grass.
I know there's been so much planning and preparation that's gone into this Throwback Classic weekend, but now that we're here and we're sort of living through it, is there anything surprised you that's popped up over the course of the last few days that maybe you didn't expect to see when you came here?
Yeah, of course, the paint schemes always come to mind, right? All the throwback schemes, and this is one of the first times that I can remember being a memory of so many of them that are in the field for both events. I remember being around the Pete Silva paint scheme. And we had Pete here yesterday. I'm not sure if he's made it back out here today, but we had him here yesterday, spending some time with him. Jay Hedgecock's throwback that Mason Diaz is driving. I remember those cars as a kid when they were running here at Hickory or over at Caraway Speedway, and just the ability to kind of relive a little bit of that has been cool. Of course, through the opportunities I've had with NASCAR in all the different levels of racing, seeing some of the cup schemes that have popped back out, that we are accustomed to seeing, but all of the effort that has gone into to really just making the cars look absolutely great. It's a testament to the teams and how they've truly embraced the throwback.
Having seen what we've gone through already and knowing what this year can be, what would you like to see? What do you think the series leadership wants to see this event in particular become in future years? How would you all like to see it grow?
So, I think we've taken that next step this time now, and of course, with a lot of help from Flo to get the purse levels up to where they are, to draw, the amount of cars that we have here. And this is a tough time to ask cars to come out and race too, right? There's a lot of points battles going on at local tracks. There's a lot of other scenarios that drivers face, and for them to, to kind of put those on the back burner for maybe a weekend and come run with us, it says a lot. So I think we'll take a look at, how to make this event, as the whole event, grow. Maybe it gets another spot on the schedule, maybe a little later, maybe sooner in the season, as people kind of get going with their racing season. So I don't know. It's I know that what we're seeing this year with 44 cars that initially were on the entry list for the late model stock cars, just shy of 30 for the pros. I think there's a lot that we learned from seeing those entries come in, and a lot that we want to apply as we go in the future.
And I think it makes a really, really good point that this is not just about making this a big event in the Cars Tour landscape. This is about making this a big event in the racing landscape. And Kip Childress, one of the many individuals at the ZMAX Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear, that helps make it all possible.
Thank you, Kip, for the time. I know that there's obviously a lot to be considered in terms of the potential schedule that is going to be passed along here once we do know when this inclement weather is going to finally move through the area. And Blake, I have to say, us having the opportunity to work with Kip over the course of the last couple of years, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I have to say the diligence and attention to detail by Kip and the team has certainly been evident even when we go through our motions with what we have to do with broadcast duties, responsibilities, and hitting our timelines. And I have full belief and faith that every effort to try to get this race in is being taken, every consideration is being addressed. And right now, we all just collectively wait, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's just part of it. And at least from what we're seeing right now, again, still just kind of a constant little bit of miss, perhaps a little bit of a pickup from what we've seen over the last hour or so, just kind of lingering around. Again, nothing that is too significant that as soon as it stops, it's not going to take long to dry this racetrack. We've seen plenty of times over the last couple of days that you just give us a little bit of a window, 45 minutes to an hour, boom, we're going to be racing. So as soon as it stops, we're going to be in a really good position to get this track dry as quickly as possible. But as you mentioned, a lot of logistical steps being taken to try and get this race in a timely fashion.
We're going to step aside. Thank you for sticking with us for FloRacing's live coverage of the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing with the Z-Max Cars Tour. More from Hickory right after this.
Welcome back to coverage of the Throwback Classic here at Hickory Motor Speedway for the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear. Now here with Lee Pulliam Performance's Doug Barnes Jr. and Doug's got a little bit of a different look compared to other races this year. So you've gone with the red Tasmanian Devil, number 3, that Dale Sr. drove in the 2000 Daytona 500. Why that scheme for this weekend?
Well, honestly, it's my favorite car ever. And then I've had to watch this thing on TV the past 3 years, and I haven't really gotten to be a part of it. So a couple years ago, I had this scheme in mind, and then when I got with the Pulling Performance squad, we talked about it in Florence, and then we swapped to a red car at Dominion. It was just a no-brainer. It was honestly cheaper to do it that way at that point.
So you made it easy, but you also committed because you're wearing the shirt that a lot of your crew members are, and you look closely on that left sleeve, the Air Doug logo is there too. Is there sort of mental effect that comes with not only just doing the car, but doing crew shirts and doing fun t-shirts to sell and really just leaning into the whole thing?
Well, yeah, like I said, I was a little jealous because I didn't get to be a part of it. So I just knew when I did it, I was going to go all out, and I just like being a part of the tour. You know what I mean? So like when they have events or different things that you can be a part of, whether it's Minnie's Mission or this, it's like I just want to make sure that I can play my part. You know, I love doing the social media side of everything. I have a lot of fun racing these cars in general. So to be a part of something bigger than just like your weekly race is a lot of fun. So, you know, there's a lot of planning that went into this. If we had the time, I'd show you. I came up with a little drawing for these shirts, and then LJ made it happen. Like it's just awesome. I love the throwback thing. I like a lot of people's other cars, and I almost wish I had a little bit of racing history in my family, because then I would probably have done something like Landon or Michael or Ronnie. But you know, we're sticking with the Taz car, and hopefully we're going to the front tonight.
I want to dig into a little bit more about a point you just made, that you love being a part of the tour. This is really your first full season crack at being part of the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear. So halfway into your first year being a full-time driver, what has the experience been like for you?
Trying. You know, my first race with them at Florence, we got off to a pretty good start. I had a chance to win that race before me and Connor got tangled up, and then we went to New River, qualified like junk, but still finished 7th, and then I think we went to Wake. Was that the next race? Had a good chance to win that race, and then we're running pretty good at Cordell before I got a little hungry. I went to the watermelon patch, and then literally since that race, like every race has just been so difficult, you know what I mean? I've gone, prior to this year, I think I've learned 2 tracks in the last 5. I've learned probably like 8 this year. So everywhere we go, after I leave, I'm like, man, if I had just had 1 race under my belt leading into this, I would have been that much better. But I didn't have that luxury. So I've been learning a lot. But, you know, still, I know the points are a little ways out, and so are we. But we're sitting decent for the amount of rough nights and incidents that we've had. So when it gets down to tracks like this, and like Dominion and Florence coming up, and then we go to South Boston, it's like that's when I need to take my experience and try and make the most of it there. So I just am happy. I wish it would stop raining, but I'm finally happy to be at a track that I have a lot of laps at, and I can kind of tell how it's going to race. You know, it's nice to have some experience for once.
You do have a lot of experience here, and I wanted to sort of turn towards that direction. With that experience, how does the car feel? How do you feel, especially from a setup perspective going into later on today?
I feel better here than I have in previous weeks, even at Dominion. I feel like I've got more laps at Dominion than anywhere. Like, we unloaded with raw speed. I honestly thought that we qualify a little bit better, so I was disappointed with 14th. But I don't know, man. I think we're in good shape. The thing is, with a race like this, you kind of have to rely on other people keeping their heads screwed on straight. But then again, you know, we might sniff the front, and then I got to keep mine on straight as well. So I think we're going to race really well. I'm just hoping that if we get to the front, we have a little bit more tire to keep going. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that we can keep the tires on and be there at the end.
Have you had a chance? Have you let yourself think about $50,000 and what that would do for you in this LPP program?
Definitely go a long ways, man. Like $50,000 is a lot of money. And I think my favorite response for the one piece that y'all did is Andrew Grady talking about what he did for a transfer spot at Martinsville, like what he would do for that. So, I mean, $50,000, I'm not sure if people had seen my pace, but I would do anything to anyone for $50,000. And I guess you can't really wreck him because you get thrown to the back. But, you know, sleeves are off when it comes down to this race. And if I was in the position leading on the last lap, I would be in full protect mode. You got to expect anything in this race.
Worth noting that race control did make the point yesterday in the drivers' meeting that if you end up wrecking somebody to try and win, you won't win at the end of the day, but you can race hard. We can expect to see a lot of hard racing in the late model stock feature, and you can expect Doug Barnes to be right in the heart of the action trying to chase after 50 grand.
Thanks, Pike. And Doug Barnes is such a tremendous asset to the Cars Tour pit area. Obviously, he's built up a tremendous social media following. But, Rob, I don't think a lot of people recall what the last 18 months has been like for Doug and the trajectory of his racing career. He hoped to join the Tour in 2024, had a partner back out relatively late in the going, and he's essentially had to rebuild, but boy, did he pair up with one of the best teams to do that, and he started to hit his stride, comes into this race 7th in points.
You know how disappointing that must have been for him in last year, not being able to race as much as he was planning on, not be able to race as much as he did the year before. I mean, the year before, 2023, he was in the championship battle all the way to the last week of the season with the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series National Championship hunt, lost out to Connor Hall. And, you know, at that point, his plan was, okay, I nearly did everything I wanted to do on the weekly side of things. Now let's go conquer the Cars Tour. And he was telling everybody that was his plan for 2024. And then suddenly we get to 2024 and he's not there. And that was, as you said, partner backing out at pretty late in the game, and he has to rethink everything. Well, now here he is, and you know he alluded to it there with Pike. It's not been the easiest season, but they're starting to show a lot of improvement. He and that Lee Pulliam Performance team, and finally starting to get closer to where they want to be.
And he mentioned himself, you know, not a lot of family history to throw it back to. He's a first-generation racer. His brother Trent has also raced several times in these types of cars. But Doug is certainly someone who is now, with that new partner on board with Jones Toyota, they've got themselves in a position where he is confident. He's in a groove, starting to go back to some tracks now for the second or maybe third time with the Tour. He's a multi-time weekly winner here. And I think even with what he said, he's got the right mentality for a race that could be a little wacky, could be a little wild, but once we get going, he seems to know what he's got to do to run well.
He alluded to his answer in the piece that we did about what would you be willing to do? And the way we prefaced the question was within reason, because as Pike mentioned in yesterday's drivers meeting, one of the great things about this tour is they're not shy about throwing the black flag should they deem anything to be a bit over the top. But he was pretty quick to say, you know, what would you do for $50,000? He's like, oh, they're going to need a clip. They're going to need a clip if I'm behind them, you know. He was willing to do whatever it takes to go win $50,000. And to be honest with you, that's the mentality that I, as a race fan, want to see these drivers have.
Yeah, and there's a purpose behind what they're trying to do with, you know, kind of being a little on the stricter side with a lot of these penalties. And I think if you're a Door Bumper Clear fan, if you listen to that show every week, it's something that Tommy Baldwin often brings up on that show is, you know, these kids, they learn this at a young age, or they learn it in divisions growing up, that there's nobody that's putting a stop to, you know, seeing somebody, you know, seeing these wrecks for the win and anything. And so I think the Tour's wanting to get ahead of that because they want to teach these drivers that there's a right way to try to do these things, and trying to be more on the stricter side of that to prevent these situations from happening in the future, considering especially the financial implications. I mean, it's not cheap to come out here and run this, and I think even Minnie Tyrell said it yesterday. If you junk somebody for 50 grand, I mean, you're costing more than it would pay, you know, to win the race. So, trying to stay ahead of that and get these drivers to race hard. We want to see hard and aggressive racing. We know we're going to get that, but we want to see it done the right way as well.
Well, as you can see, the rain continues to fall here at Hickory Motor Speedway. We remain in a holding pattern in hopes of resuming the Throwback presented by FloRacing. When we come back on the other side, we're going to touch on another Throwback story in the Pro Late Model field involving our most recent winner, Keelan Harvick. That's on the other side. We'll be back for more from Hickory right after this.
standing by a very special paint scheme for Keelan Harvick here at Hickory Motor Speedway. Explain to the race fans, we ran an article about it when you guys unveiled it, but explain to the race fans why this car looks the way it does, why you changed your number, and what this car means to you and your family.
So this is a throwback to my grandpa that he passed away. He used to race at Hickory and all the local tracks. So it's just really cool to relive this moment and just race where he used to race on his paint scheme.
In the video, when you guys announced it, you got to surprise your grandmother. What was that like for you, that moment to have with her?
It was really cool. It would probably just be with me for the rest of my life, and I can always rewatch that and just make me smile. But yeah, it was really cool to do something nice for her because she's always been there for me.
It would seem pretty obvious in the video how much it meant to her, but like when the cameras weren't rolling, what were some of the things that she told you about just how special this car is to her and for your mom?
She was just very thankful for everybody who helped put this car together. She's just thankful, and I'm glad to see her happy.
So how did this scheme get chosen? Who was the mastermind behind choosing this one?
Me and Candace Hornaday, we both looked through a couple, but this one was the most special to me and my family, so we just chose this one in honor of my grandpa.
So you just won here a couple weeks ago in a standalone pro late model race, but this one going for $30,000 would probably be one of, if not the very top biggest win of your very young career. $30,000 of Hunt Brothers Pizza you said you wanted to get, but going and winning this race in this car, how much would that mean to you?
It would just mean a lot. It would just mean the world to me, just to win in his paint scheme. But yeah, it would be really cool.
Have you started practicing to be able to eat $30,000 worth of pizza?
I don't know about that one. That one will take a while.
I agree. Keelan Harvick going for the $30,000 win here in the Throwback Classic at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Back here at Hickory Motor Speedway, working through some of the incredible pieces that our FloRacing content team has been able to build over the course of not just the last few days, but weeks. But as you can see, the rain continues to fall here at the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. Still in a holding pattern with the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing. And we cannot thank everybody enough for sticking with us here on what has just been unbelievable circumstances over the course of the last 3 days, as we have 44 laps in the books for the pro late models, 56 to go there. And then the full duration of the 125 lapper for the late model stock cars with $50,000 going to the winner. Eric Brennan alongside of Blake McCandless. James Pike has been joining us trackside, and we're lucky enough to have Rob Blount, who just shot that piece that we got to see there a little bit earlier, and interview Keelan Harvick about his thoughts on his throwback scheme. And Rob, we've had 7 pro late model races, 7 different winners in 2025, Keelan being the most recent. And although that young man has displayed his ability to drive a race car across karting, legend cars, the street stock at New River last year that caught everyone's attention, and now in a pro late model, I think one of the most fun things to watch from our perspective has been him develop as a person. And I could tell that everyone in his social circle and everyone helping build that young man to be a great race car driver, they've created just as much emphasis, if not a whole lot more, to make him be an incredible person, and he has shown that in more ways than one.
It's really wonderful to see, you know, someone that age. Most people are extremely nice people, right? But there's a difference between being really nice and really respectful. He makes sure that everybody that he meets and speaks with, you know, yes sir, yes ma'am, all the time, until you've gotten to a certain level of familiarity within that family circle. That's maybe when he'll change and start switching to your name, but otherwise it's yes sir and yes ma'am. And you know, I've had multiple conversations now with his parents, Kevin and Delana, and with Candace Hornaday as well, who he shouted out in that piece, that the biggest thing that the three of them all preach with him is, and want to focus on, is the racing part is great. And this mostly especially is from his mother Delana. She told me, everything with the racing is great. I love seeing him have success on the racetrack, but none of the checkered flags and trophy matter to me. I just want to raise a very respectful son.
And I think they're doing just that. And you talk about people who are surrounded by tremendous groups and tremendous operations. How about our current late model stock points leader in his first full year with the Junior Motorsports team? Connor Hall is with Pike.
Connor Hall, the former winner of this event and its predecessors back in 2022. Connor, when you won that year, we basically had to wait a week to come back. We couldn't get any racing in on the originally scheduled weekend. So, in a sense, just having to sit out the rain delays, do you sort of know how to handle it because you've been here before?
I guess the only way I know how to handle a rain delay is make bad decisions on food and eat too much and hang out with your buddies. But as far as the racing goes, Hickory's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like whether there's rubber on or rubber off, and I just think that we obviously have what we have when it comes to our cars. So I just think whenever Mother Nature wants to cooperate and we can get 125 dry laps in and see what we can give them.
Just looking back at the whole weekend, what have you guys been looking for so far as a feel for the car, something from a setup perspective? What have you been hunting for in practice and in the qualifying sessions?
I think us particularly, we were just working on trying to rotate the middle like we want. I think that's a big key to winning this race is whoever can maintain turn the longest and continue wrapping. These are pretty long sweeping corners, so whoever can wrap the longest seems to have front running success. And right now I think the only thing everybody's looking for is no rain, so we're all hanging out, having a good time, and waiting it out.
We're a little bit past the halfway point of the season. You made this move with the intention of competing directly for the LMSC title. What's the experience been like over these first few months and the first half of the season working with JRM in this 88 car?
It's been awesome. I've learned a ton, and I think, working with Brian Schaefer, Justin Slim, Ernie, Bo, everybody, on that group is really fun. And just, I try to be a sponge. And like I said, getting to work with Brian Schaefer is a big honor. He's super smart, and he's done it way longer than I have. And anything I can try to absorb and learn from him and implement myself, as whether it's behind the wheel or in the shop, to try to help me be better for us is something that I'm willing to do. And obviously to represent the Earnhardt family and the Miller family as well with, Dale Kelly at LW, and honestly just representing a face like Junior Motorsports and, Johnny Morris, Bass Pro Shops, Roto-Rooter. We have a lot of, bigger partners, and it's really, really cool to have the relationships with them and the opportunity to represent them. So I'd say big honor on my part. I'm definitely the smallest portion of that whole deal, but it's been really, really fun to get that opportunity.
You look back between maybe just even last year to this with this team. Is there any one thing that stood out that you've learned, or an example of something that you've learned that you feel like has made you a better driver now compared to seasons past?
I think one thing that I've tried to establish maybe within myself the longer I go is most of it's up here. It's like, I feel like if you would have got Connor 2 years ago, who, is starting closer to the rear of the field rather than the front of the field, it would have been maybe a little bit more emotion involved, where I feel like every time we unload, we can win from anywhere. So I think just as far as me, I'm just trying to, process information a little differently. I think, working with this group definitely has helped me understand things in a different manner. And I think a little bit of it is age. I've passed 26, so that frontal lobe's developing now finally. So just trying to be more of a veteran, a little bit more savvy, and just try to work things in a little bit different way than I might have in the past.
That win from anywhere point I think stands out to me in particular, Eric Blake Rapp. I've got a thing I like to call the Alabama factor. You think of the old Nick Saban teams that used to compete, and even though they might not have always been at the top of their game, you knew every time they showed up, you'd have to be in for a fight. You'd have to play all 60 minutes because they'd always have a chance to win. That's what Connor Hall and JRM have been consistently throughout the season in the Cars Tour, and no reason why it would be any different when you've got a driver that's already won this race, just knows that might be a little bit different this time going for $50,000.
Well, I think that's why, Connor finds himself in the position he's in right now, leading the championship standings. Came out of the gate hot, won a couple of races early, a lot of top 3 finishes at the early portion of the year. And then, as we've moved toward the spring and towards the summer, it's been some runs that, they weren't matching quite what they were doing early in the season. But I think Connor, and you heard his conversation there talking about his maturity as a driver, as a person. I think we're seeing that in how he's racing as well, because there's been some days where, especially Caraway, I think a couple weeks ago, really sticks out as a date where, they could have lost a little bit of ground in the championship standings in the battle that he and Landon Lewis have. But Connor sticking with it, being able to get a lot out of his race car when maybe it's not quite to the liking that he would like, has been a big reason why at this part of the season that he's still leading the championship standings.
I think that answer, too, was another sign of maturity, to be willing to openly admit publicly that a couple of years ago I was heading the wrong direction, and I've had to make a lot of work to improve myself mentally, but also on the racetrack. So I think that answer showed a lot as well. But you're right, especially going back to Caraway. Caraway, he did not qualify well. It could have been a situation where, he could have let himself get inside of his own head and make his night even worse. But as you said, he stayed the course and then is fortunate enough that the driver that was chasing him in points, Landon Lewis, made a mistake in the late going, and they walk out of there the exact same. Entered 6 points up, left 6 points up. Now we have to see whenever this race runs, though, is that mentality the exact same here? Because more cars here, bad qualifying effort again. He's in a bigger hole tonight than he was at Caraway. And again, Landon Lewis is starting way up near the front of the field, so he's in a hole. Does that mentality that he just talked about carry over into this race?
And Connor is no stranger to trying to accomplish two major things in one season. Of course, he won last year's Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series Championship for the second year in a row while chasing a Cars Tour title as well. And this year, he's off to a really good start in the Virginia Triple Crown after getting the win at South Boston, second to Matt Waltz at Langley, Martinsville coming up late September. It is quite possible that at year's end, he's got the Triple Crown under his belt, a Cars Tour title under his belt. And with that maturation and continued growth, I would say the sky's the limit for someone who's already proven he can get the job done, like he did in the truck race last year at Richmond, getting a top 10 there on debut. And we get to watch it all unfold.
And oh, by the way, he happens to be, you mentioned the Triple Crown, racing in the car that is the defending winner of the Valley Star Credit Union 300 at Martinsville Speedway. They won that race, obviously, with Carson Quapple last year. So, yeah, a first and a second in the first two legs going to Martinsville. They look to be in pretty good shape. And, as you mentioned, as we all know, 6 points up right now on Landon Lewis. They're in really good shape right here as we close in on the halfway mark of the season. But, still a lot of racing left on the ZMAX Cars Tour schedule.
Connor Hall's going to be looking for win number 3 in 2025 whenever we are able to get the late model stocks on track, as again, we remain in a current holding pattern with the Throwback Classic presented by FloRacing, with the rain just being a bit relentless here as we now breach the 3 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. In fact, coming up on 3:15 p.m. Eastern time, and all the drivers and team members just trying to do whatever they can to stay fresh, if at all possible, while we continue to try to catch up with some of those who are doing just that down in the infield. We'll go back down to Pike.
Thank you, Eric. I've got Brody Monahan down here racing for the Matt Piercy Bunch in a second car. And Brody, you have a neat story with your throwback. I don't know if we've had that chance to talk about it too much over the course of this weekend, but the old Wheelin' 31 that Steve Park used to drive. Why did you select the Steve Park throwback to run at this Throwback Classic?
It's not just like a random throwback that we choose. It's very special to us. Wheelin' supported us this year at the beginning of the year at Speed Weeks at New Smyrna Speedway. And we really wanted to do something with them coming up for this big throwback race. And we chose the Steve Park number 31, and we're happy to rep it down here this weekend.
One of the most iconic schemes, I think, especially from the early 2000s and that sort of Busch Series era. So this is not necessarily your normal form of stock car discipline, a sort of unique start for you amongst your calendar this year. But just looking from the outside, not being a regular competitor of the series, what have you seen from the Cars Tour, and what was part of the allure and the draw of coming to compete with the series this weekend?
The competition is, this is probably some of the stoutest fields you ever see probably in the country, short track racing. The Cars Tour is the real deal, and the late model stock class has really been shining these past couple of years. And $50,000 payday is really big, and it called us out here, and we're gonna try to go chase that money.
What's your experience been like here over the course of the weekend? How's the car felt? Have you sort of worked on the setup and transitioned from one direction to another as things have progressed?
Yeah, we've just been fine-tuning. I do have some laps here in a late model from last year. That's kind of the reason we wanted to really do this one, but we've been fine-tuning. I think we're in a really good place. I messed up my qualifying lap a little bit, but I think we'll be able to make our way through.
Fighting loose, free, anything in particular at this point, or do you feel ready to go-ish?
I think we're ready to go. We're just going to have to see what the track does after all this weather we've been encountering here the past 2 days, but I think we're going to be ready to rip and get to the front.
Mentally, how do you approach these 125 laps, especially now that we've all had the time to think about it, and especially use a driver? You know, we were originally supposed to be racing last night. Now we're, you know, almost 12 hours, beyond 12 hours, I guess, beyond that, and the clock continues to kick. So I guess for you, does the opportunity to think about it more, does it help? Does it hurt? Does it change things? How has it affected you?
I like to think about what our pace is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty a decent pace. People are going to be trying to get to the front while saving a little bit. But, yeah, I try not to think about everything too much because then you'll mess yourself up. But I'm pretty excited.
There's a very, very valid point in all of that. I know Rob talked about it just a little bit ago, just keeping your head above water as we try and avoid some of the water falling from the sky. But Brody Monahan with a big task, as do a lot of these drivers that will compete in the late model stock car feature a little bit later.
Thanks, Pike. And Brody Monahan is someone who comes from a true racing family. Both his mother and father, respective track championships up in the New England region, where Brody himself has had a lot of success. We've been talking about the throwback schemes. Brody's got a great one that he talked about, throwing it back to Steve Park in what was then the NASCAR Busch Series days. Don't forget to scan the QR code on the bottom right-hand portion of your picture, because there is $1,500 cash on the line for the driver that is voted with the best throwback. Out of 29 entries, $1,000 from Texaco Cutstone, $500 directly from FloRacing, and a full next-gen body kit from 5-Star Race Car Bodies. Voting is going to end 11:59 p.m. tonight. And, Rob, you can give us an update as to how the top 5 may be shaking out a little bit.
Yes, sir. Well, I will say the very nice Steve Park Wheel & Engineering throwback scheme that Brody Monahan is running here this weekend, that is one of them in the top 5. I'm going to give this to you, Eric and Blake, in no particular order here. But Brody Monahan is one of them. Landon Lewis's Ron Hornaday Southwest Tour championship winning car from the early 90s. That's another one in the top 5. Doug Barnes, I had a feeling. I said it on, I still call it Twitter. I know it's X, but I said it on social media earlier this week when I realized what car he was going to be running. That was going to be a tough one to beat. The Dale Earnhardt Sr. Looney Tunes Tasmanian Devil car. Seth Christensen, the Alan Kawicki Underbird. That is in the top 5. And Landon Huffman's Pink Cadillac tribute to his father. That one is also in the top 5. So make sure you get those votes in, because it's not just the winner that's going to be taking home some prizes in this vote this weekend. Also, second place is getting a full wrap courtesy of the Decal Source, and third place is getting a full decal set from the Decal Source as well. So great sponsors for the car store here, putting up some good prizes to these teams, thanking them for putting in the effort, putting up the expense of giving us some really beautiful paint schemes to look. I still call it paint schemes. 33 years old, my mentality is still old enough to think that they're paint schemes.
I'm with you there.
Even though they're wrap schemes, that just sounds weird to say, though. But beautiful schemes that these teams have come out with. Blake, which one is your favorite one? Do you feel comfortable saying which one you voted for?
Well, I did vote for one. I voted for it a couple of times. I don't know if I want to show my bias here. It is. I'll go as far to say it was one of the short track throwbacks, and I think that's something that's really special about this weekend. Love seeing all the old NASCAR schemes, and for a lot of drivers, a hero that they would have looked up to and something that they're proud to represent. But I love looking at these schemes of, when we talk about, Michael Bumgarner or Mason Diaz, what he's running this weekend with the Jay Hedgecock throwback.
That one was my vote. I don't know why. I have no affiliation to the Hedgecocks at all. I come from a modified background in the Northeast, but the car just looks great. He looks like he's having a great time right there, by the way. He's making up some, having some fun here in the rain, playing with some Matchbox cars, some Hot Wheels right in the
We can call that race.
Yeah, we can call that one.
They line them up. We'll talk about it.
But that, just the way the gold number on the doors and the roof, it popped during the sunlight, but it really popped in Friday night qualifying under the lights.
Yeah, it
I
did.
just kind of fell in love with that car. I didn't think I was going to until I was looking down the pole, and I'm like, you know what? Mason Diaz's Jay Hedgecock scheme, that one's got my vote.
Yeah, I gotta say, Jace Hale, the channel lock car,
Yes.
man, that car looked good in qualifying. That's one of those schemes that's just timeless. Just one of those kind of light blue. And again, I grew up in Raleigh, so I don't like Tar Heel blue, but still, it's just a great looking race car.
I did choose to abstain from voting because I didn't want to be biased, but you've mentioned two of my three favorites, the Jace Hell Channel Lock Throwback, the Brody Monahan Wheelin' Throwback, and I absolutely love Dawson Sutton's Pro Late model, throwing it back to the Western Auto days for Darrell Waltrip. I actually got to catch up with Dawson and said, hey, where did the inspiration come from? Was it you? And he said, it was actually my mom who had the idea, and that car just pops to life around the racetrack. And hopefully we'll be able to see Dawson and the rest of the Pro Late Model field at some point later on today. While some of the young fans continue to enjoy some of the downtime trackside, we're going to step aside. We're watching continued live coverage of FloRacing's Throwback Classic, presenting the Z-Max Cars Tour, presented by Sound Gear, under a rain delay here at Hickory Motor Speedway. More to come right after this.
standing by with the driver of the pink Cadillac this weekend, Landon Huffman. Explain to the race fans why this car is so special to you and what it is.
Robert Huffman, 1993, Hickory Motor Speedway, late model stock car. So really cool. Every year we do this throwback deal. I have an opportunity to, take advantage of it and throw back to a car that my dad's done over the last few years. And I've been fortunate, that he's raced a very many number of race cars and a bunch of paint schemes. So this was a fan favorite here at Hickory in 1993, and I'm happy and proud of our recreation of it. It's pretty dang close to the original, so I had to get on Illustrator and try to hand draw out the numbers to get them as close as possible. So they're a little imperfect, but that's okay. The original was too, and just thankful to get another opportunity to throw back to him and honor his career. And we got Boat Daddy on board. It's an awesome boating app out of the Keys down in Florida. So the sponsor matches the throwback scheme, which is pretty cool. So just happy and excited to see it on the racetrack in video, hopefully celebrating in Victory Lane.
I think the imperfection of the number actually makes it look cooler, because even though we know that it's vinyl, it's wrapped, right? Like, it has a little bit of like a hand-drawn, hand-painted quality to it, which I like.
Yeah, it still looks, retro, and a lot of those cars back then were, underappreciated. There was a lot of paint schemes. Yeah, a lot of the stuff was simple and one-color cars, but there was something about, a hand-painted number or just a odd number font in general that were popular then, and I don't know, gave the car some identity, and I'm happy that I can recreate that and, give the fans another time to see the old pink Cadillac run around Hickory.
So recreating the scheme, not the only thing you've recreated this weekend. You even decided to recreate your dad's clean-shaven look. Why did you have to go to that step? I think you should have just kept the beard.
Yeah, I haven't shaved my face since 2017, so I had to go buy a razor, and I usually use an electric one, so I had to go buy an actual razor and some shaving cream, and it took me about 2 hours to really slowly shave my face because I was terrified I was going to cut myself all up. But I did bring the baby face out. I'm not sure if the wife likes it or not. I'll let you guys know later this evening. But other than that, I'm happy again I could recreate the original photo, which we will be able to do here in a little, and I'm just proud to be able to do this.
What was her reaction when you walked out of the bathroom clean shaven? Because I know the last time I accidentally messed up and then had to just go the whole rest of the way and go clean shaven. I walked out of the bathroom. My wife said, "Wow, you look like a bowling ball." So it wasn't great for me. That's why I haven't shaved since like 2017.
Well, I'm not sure if it's made me gain or lose weight yet. I haven't gotten that confirmation. So I feel like it makes me look like I've gained weight, but I don't know. It's all an optical illusion. So I do know that my face does feel better today than it has in years past. So maybe that's a plus.
We're getting really, really tight. See the grain there. Other thing, you sent me a picture, not of your face, not of you in the bathroom either, but of you in the mirror in your father's fire suit. Are we still going that step towards the recreation?
You just have to come down here in a little bit and find out.
All right, sounds good. Well, last question. $50,000. Yeah, one more. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the fact that there's $50,000 on the line this weekend. The last time we had a race paying anywhere close to that, you won at Tri-County, the $30,000 Old North State Nationals. What would $50,000 mean to you? I know you told me back at South Boston you're trying to buy a house, so that would probably go towards that, right?
Go a long ways, and I feel like this weekend sort of just there's a lot of things that I feel like stars aligning, for me to have a shot at the big money. And last time we raced for a lot of money, it worked out in my favor. So I think that I've got plenty of laps around here, and I think that we've got a really good Boat Daddy pink Cadillac. So see if I can make it happen for not just me, but I lost my great-grandma this past week. She was 95 years old. She lived a wonderful life. So if I can go to Victory Lane for her and celebrate with $50,000, I think she'd be pretty happy about that.
I remember the celebration at Tri-County was spectacular. So for all those reasons, I'm sure this weekend for Landon Huffman, should he pull it off on Saturday night, would be wild.
A pair of Hickory Motor Speedway champions embodying in what is the paint scheme. There you go, Rob. Now I said it too now. The wrap of the pink caddy for Landon Huffman. Of course, Huffman won the title here a handful of years ago. His father also with much success at Hickory. And they throw it back to 1993 with the look and design of that car, which Huffman will be rolling off 7th in when we get to race time. Again, still under a rain delay here at Hickory Motor Speedway. I have to say that every fan who continues to ride this out with us certainly has to go down in history as some of the best fans in all of racing, because it has been not only a long day, but a long 3 days, and we cannot thank everybody enough for sticking with us. And I mean, Rob, the passion for the sport runs so deep, but it is definitely evident by those who are sticking around and just hoping this cell will loosen up at some point.
These people are some legitimate troopers. I almost feel like we should maybe redirect the prizes from the best appearing car voting poll and try to evenly split it amongst the people that are still here, because they are the true champions of this weekend with the dedication that they have shown. I don't know what they would do with a full next-gen body kit, but, you know, maybe the cash prizes we can distribute evenly amongst them, because they have been really putting in the dedication.
So much appreciation from all of us here, whether it be with the tour or with the racetrack. And, you know, Blake, for us, this is the third time that we've been fortunate enough to be part of the Throwback event with the Cars Tour in this capacity. And every year it does seem to get better. But like you said earlier, a bit of deja vu here. This happened 2 years ago, and it was worth the wait, however. And in similar fashion, the pro race started on Saturday. We finished it on Sunday. And the late model stock race ran the duration then. And even though the sun was setting on a Sunday evening, we were able to crown Mason Diaz the winner that day. And our hopes remain high that today will play out in a similar manner.
And again, as we're taking a look at just how this may play out, again, it seems like, you know, give it another 2 hours or so, at least from what we're seeing now. And I think that's when this will start to hopefully dissipate, and from whenever it stops, it'll be about an hour, perhaps maybe just slightly past that, with the amount of rain that we've had here today, to be able to dry this racetrack. And, you know, there's something else that I think could be said if we were able to settle this under the lights. I think that'd be a great spectacle as well. But we'll see. That's part of it. Again, this pro late model race, again, 56 laps in a pro late model feature, 57 laps. Not an entirely long period of time. I mean, we ran 100 laps a couple weeks ago in about 38 minutes. So this pro late feature, if we could just get this track dry and get it in, you know, you turn some pretty quick laps around here, 15-second laps or so, that a lot of these pros and late model stocks will be turning once we get to race time. So if we just have a little bit of a window, I think we'll be able to get this in.
Man, is it going to be worth the wait, too?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
the other
yes, yes.
night, last night, the first, what was it, 44 laps that we had in the pro late model race was getting really, really fun. Right before the rain hit, Spencer Davis was all over Kaden Honeycutt for the lead, weaving in and out of lap traffic. It was getting really, really good. And as you said, this feels similar to 2023, and that day race was a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
So just in general, the racing here is usually fun. That's why we chose this race to be this $50,000 to win for the late model stocks, $30,000 to win for the pro late models, because we knew that this racetrack with its old pavement can produce that side-by-side beating and banging, true to form short track racing that we all love to see out of late model divisions.
Well, there's definitely nothing worse than rain at a racetrack, and we hope you've enjoyed the 2 hours plus of rain delay coverage that our team has worked very hard to bring you. However, at this point, we are going to step aside until we have further information and an update here from Hickory Motor Speedway. If you choose to go away from the stream, be sure to check out everything on social media, whether it be from Flo itself or the Cars Tour, as to a projected start time once the rain clears out. Or if you can, keep the stream up. If you want to watch something else, grab a tablet or another TV. But we'll be here and ready to update you once we have more from the Throwback Classic, presented by FloRacing, the Z-Max Cars Tour, presented by Sound Gear at Hickory.